So the Citi Open was just announced that it was canceled. I mean, not just announced, but it has been announced that the Citi Open has been canceled and that they are not going through with the Washington, D.C. tournament later in August. The women's tournament, I think, is being replaced by the top seed tennis tournament in Kentucky. I mean, that tournament has a lot of good names. It's got Serena and Venus, Sloane, Coco, Azarenka, and a bunch of others to go along with them. But that's just after the fact that the DC is not happening. They made a formal announcement that there were a lot of moving parts and that there was too much to handle in such a little amount of time. But I think from my perspective that if you knew this was going to happen and you knew that there wasn't that much time left to get everything together, maybe there was something to kind of get it right and kind of figure out, okay, there's about 2 weeks left. Do we have everything ready? No? Okay. But it still seems like the miscommunication on Twitter and between the players and the councils and everything going on, because John Wertheim from, I believe, the New York Times tweeted out that DC was not having it. And it kind of was the first way I found out that DC wasn't happening and the Citi Open wasn't happening. But Riley Opelka quoted it and retweeted it and said it's still great that we get to find out calendar changes on Twitter rather than a formal announcement made to them on their player website or anything. And it seems like, for me, from a media perspective, that a lot of news and announcements are made from insiders rather than official statements. And yes, there are official statements from guys like Woj on Twitter and Jeff Passons for MLB for baseball, but for tennis, it seems like the players are the last to know. With those insiders for other sports, players already know what's going to happen before it's announced from the insiders. Seems like the other way around here, but that's just my opinion. I'm not quite sure if that's completely correct, but from a calendar standpoint, that needs to be fixed, especially for the Citi Open. The owner of the Citi Open, Mark Ein, I'm reading my notes off here, that the bubble tournament, the hotels was one of the biggest issues that they had. They lost the first hotel that they had, and then they lost the second hotel because they were canceling all of their reservations based on the amount of cases that are still coming up in the country. And while DC may be considered that a better COVID or has less cases than other states or other areas, it's still a prominent thing. We're still in a world pandemic, and flights are being canceled in October for some airlines, and people are getting their money back for those. It's crazy how that's happening, but you're pushing for a tournament that doesn't have a bubble like World Team Tennis. World Team Tennis did a good job of keeping it all in one place, making sure that they were being tested, making sure that it's one bubble like Orlando is doing for the MLS or NBA, excuse me. That's very different compared to what tennis is doing, because everyone's traveling internationally. A lot of countries have different travel restrictions. One thing that the U.S. has is that they're allowing foreign athletes to come into their country in order to participate in competitions, which is good for tennis because foreign athletes get to come here. But when it comes to traveling outside of the U.S., most Americans and most people that are living outside of their own country are not allowed in. I know Italy is not accepting Americans. I know a lot of other European countries are not allowing Americans to participate. It's not the same rules. So there's a lot of different rules in place for different nationalities that possibly can't compete in Roland Garros, in Madrid, in Rome. So it seems unfair, and DC made a last-minute call. And look, tennis is its own ecosystem when it comes to getting media together from different parts of the world. So Italian television, like reporters from England, Hawkeye based in England. So there's a lot of different things that you have to get. So you have to make sure that everything's definitive. And DC made a risky call of canceling it kind of close-ish to when they were supposed to start. I think they made the right decision. But, I was listening to the No Challenges Remaining podcast, and with Ben Rothenberg and the owner, Mark Ein. And Mark was saying that they were getting so many emails from players and agents thanking them for at least trying to have the event and that they were disappointed. But I doubt you're getting the same emails from lower-ranked players. Mark is a friend of some of the players on tour, and yes, you can get emails from their players and from their agents, but from the people that are trying to qualify for these events. And it goes back to the bigger issue with the communication part between players and organizations and tournaments. Yeah, that's great. You're getting emails about that. But for people trying to qualify that had a chance to maybe play because other higher ranked players weren't going to play them, they lose out on money and they lose out on that. So it's a matter of giving people a heads up. The biggest issue, I think, when it comes to this and canceling the DC tournament is government issues. Like I said before, other countries have the opportunity to set their own rules and regulations of traveling. For the U.S., it's very different. It depends on the state and depends on everything else going on. You can't leave that to last minute, and you can't leave that to other players going on and having plans so far ahead and then last minute canceling it. It's like a foreshadowing for Cincinnati and the U.S. Open. I'm not saying it's going to happen there, but I'm saying it's a possibility. I had a feeling that some of these tournaments were going to be canceled last minute. I'm very disappointed in it, and a lot of people are as well, to have that competition come back. But I'm standing on my soapbox and continuously saying that tennis is not going to be played competitively on the ATP or WTA Tour, or should not be played until 2021. They just announced that they're canceling the entire Asia swing. Am I surprised by that? Absolutely not. No one should be surprised by that. That's crazy. Asia is a hotbed, and they're getting their second wave of the virus right now. And the U.S. is still kind of going through their first wave. And you're telling me, oh, okay, we're going to be fine. We're going to be able to bring international players. We're going to make everything go right. No, that's no. There's too many people, too many factors, too many issues that have to go into one tournament. DC is one of my favorite tournaments. DC is a lot of fun. The Heat, not a big fan of it, but it is a lot of fun to be a part of. I'm very grateful that I've had the opportunity to cover the tournament, to be a hitting partner there the first time I was there. But are they pushing for it? Yeah, absolutely. Mark Ein is one of the most well-known tournament owners there is on tour, and DC is always thrown on a great show when it comes to dealing with tennis and hosting a tournament with top players. Pegula announced that she was not playing DC, I think, when they first announced the Top Seed tournament a while back. Kyrgios is not going to defend his title. I don't think he's going to play anything this year. Europeans are probably going to stay there to play Rome, Madrid, Roland Garros. In my opinion, it's going to be North Americans and some South Americans, maybe. If they live in Florida, if they're in their home country, they're probably not going to travel or be able to travel to Europe or the U.S. So the U.S. Open in Cincinnati is going to basically be a bunch of Americans or North Americans that are going to be playing. But when it comes to just the amount of players going, it's going to be crazy. And one of the reasons why DC moved their women's, I think, or was being their women's side of the tournament being replaced for the Top Seed tennis tournament in Lexington, it was to ensure that there were enough people in one place to be safe, with men and women both being at DC. There were going to be over 200 people there, plus so imagine 100 players, plus ones, plus another person maybe that they had. It's over 200 people in one place. And that's without fans, and that's without staff that are going to make the tournament run. One thing that Mark Ein was saying during the interview was that they were trying to have live Hawkeye. And Hawkeye is required to kind of like be prepared for this kind of situation, but they have to get there maybe a week in advance. So you're going to have a team of people from Hawkeye being at DC to make sure that everything is run smoothly, so that way they don't have any line judges. There's only one umpire, and there's more cameras on court to make sure everything is going well. And then you add the men's and women's tournaments, and it's more people being exposed to other people that have maybe been in countries or exposed to different people who have been exposed to the virus. I mean, to kind of conclude this impromptu video about DC being canceled is, one, I am surprised and not surprised that DC was canceled. Oh my gosh, excuse me. I am surprised and yet not surprised that DC was canceled. 2, I think it was the right move of canceling it. And 3, can it be a foreshadowing for Cincinnati, New York, top seed tennis? Who knows? All I know is that the ones that are being successful right now, and the only one that I know is being successful with everything going on with competitive tennis, is World Team Tennis, and I applaud them for everything that they're doing right now. So, that's my impromptu video on DC being canceled. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay safe. Wash your hands.